Alright, today we're going to talk about 2.2 adding rational number notes. So we're going to focus on adding fractions and then adding decimals and adding stuff like that, okay? So if we are adding fractions, so add right fractions in simplest form. The first step in order to add fractions is you have to have a common denominator. So my denominator has to be the same in order to add or subtract fractions. So I need to get the same denominator. So that's a 5, that's a 20. 5 can go into 24 times, so I can change my greatest common factor between the two is 20. So I'm going to get negative. So I'm going to times this by 20, or times this by 4 to get it to 20. And then what I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. So this becomes 16 over 20, and then I still have that plus, and then 3 over 20 because 20 is already there, okay? Then it's just like adding integers. We're going to circle our terms. So circle negative 16 20ths, positive 3 20ths. Opposite signs, we subtract them. So if they're opposite signs, we subtract. So 16 minus 3 is 13 over 20. And then 16 20ths is more than 3 20ths, so we keep the negative sign. So my answer is negative 13 20ths. So when you are doing this, step 1, when you're adding and subtracting rational numbers, fractions, step 1, get a common denominator. Step 2, circle my terms. Step 3, add or subtract depending on whether they're the same terms or different terms, or same signs or different signs. And then get your sign and you are done, okay? So here, the negative 8 is not a fraction, but something you could see is this is negative 8, this is negative 6 sevenths. So they're both negative, so we're going to add them. 8 plus a 6 sevenths is just going to get you 8 and 6 sevenths. And then you keep that negative sign because they have the same signs. If that did not work out so nicely, where this had a number, you can just add the whole numbers and then keep the fractions. But if there is a fraction with both of them, you have to get a common denominator. Okay, so my answer for this one is negative 8 and 6 sevenths. Moving on to number 3. So we have two whole numbers and we have a fraction. So let's go ahead and just make them both improper and then go ahead and do our thing. So 15 times 1 times 2 would be 17 15ths. And then 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 halves. We need to get a common denominator, so I know 15, the greatest common factor between, or multiple between 15 and 2 is 30. So I'm going to have to times this by 2 to get to 30, times this by 2. Okay, so this becomes 30 over 2 times 17, which is 34. And this is positive. And then I have a plus, a negative, and in order to get this to 30, I'm going to times this bottom by 15, and when I do the bottom, I have to do the top, so I'm going to take 7 times 15. 2 times 15 is 30. 7 times 15 is 105, so that goes on top, 105. Okay, so then we go ahead and circle our terms. So I have a 34 30ths positive and a negative 105 30ths. So opposite signs we subtract. So I'm going to do 105 minus 34. I will get 71. Okay, so 71. And then 30 minus 30. No, you keep the denominator. We keep the denominator when you are adding and subtracting. Do not forget that. And then negative is 105 is bigger than 34, so we keep that negative. And we don't like it being improper, so how many 30s go into 71? 2 of them. So then I take out 60 because 2 times 30 is 60, and I'm left with 11 over 30, and it's a negative, so my answer is negative 2 11 30ths. Alright, moving right on. Okay, first step, get a common denominator. So this 6 needs to become 12 because 6 and 12 are, so I have to times this by 2, times this by 2, so this becomes 2 over 12 negative. And then this is already there, so it's a positive plus a negative 5 twelfths. Alright, so we have a negative, negative, same signs. We combine 5 plus 2 is 7. 12, we keep the 12, and negative, since they are the same signs, you keep the sign. Alright, moving on. So now we have negative 3 and 9 tenths. 9 tenths plus negative 3. So if it is a whole number, you just should understand that that's over 1. Because negative 3 divided by 1 is just a negative 3, okay? So in this situation, we have to get a common denominator. My common denominator between 1 and 10 is 10. So I'm going to times this by 10 and times this by 10. So I have 9 tenths plus negative 3 times 10 is negative 30 over 1 times 10, which is 10. Okay, now we circle our terms. I have a negative and a positive. Opposite signs we subtract. So 30 minus 9 is 21 over 10, and 30 is bigger, so we have a negative. 10 goes into 21 two times, which is 20. So then I have 2, and then I have 1 remaining tenth. So then my answer is negative 2 and 1/10. Alright, moving right along. Okay, so since what we can do is we could add the whole numbers and then add the fractions, but we're just going to go ahead and make it improper and do that way. So 4 times 5 is 20, 20 plus 3 is 23 fourths, and then we have 6 times 4 times 5, or plus 5, 6 times 4 is 24, plus 5 is 29, 6. So to get a common, least common multiple, or the greatest common factor between 6 and 4 is 12. So if I times this by 3, I have to times this by 3. Okay, so 4 times 3 is 12, and 23 times 3 is 69. So I have 69 over 12, and this is negative, and then I have to times this by 2. What I do at the bottom, I have to do the top, so 29 times 2, so 6 times 2 is 12, and 29 times 2 is 58. Okay, and this is still negative, and we still have that positive right there. Okay, circle terms, so we have negative 69 twelfths and negative 58 twelfths. Same signs, you combine, so 69 plus 58, that would be 17, carry the 1, 11, 12. So I have 127 over 12 and negative, and then I have to think, how many 12s go into 127? If I do 12 times 12, it's 144, so I go over it. So if I do 10 times 12, I get 120, and if I add 12 to 120, I get 132, which would not get me, would be over 127, so I'm going to take out 10 of those 12, so I'm going to minus 120, and then 127 minus 120 is 7 twelfths, so I have negative 10 and 7 twelfths for this problem. Okay, where I'm getting this 120 is I'm looking at my numerator here, and I'm saying, okay, how many 12s go into 127? So how many 12s? So I can do 12, 24, 36, 48, that's 4 of them. If I do another, it'd be 60. If I do another, 72. And I kept on adding 12s, and I got 10 12s gets you 120, so I take that out. And 127 minus 120 give me 7 twelfths. I can't take another 12 out of that, okay? So that is adding fractions. So now we're going to add decimals. So first step is circle like terms, okay? Or circle your terms. So this is a positive, this is negative, so we're going to subtract. So I want the bigger number on top. So how you find out the bigger number, you look, okay, 1's place the same, 10's place. 6 is bigger than 4. So this number is going to be bigger than 0.642 because the tens place is bigger. Minus 0.46 because they are opposite. If there's nothing there, you fill in a 0. Okay? Then we're going to do subtraction just like normal. So borrow the 4. So I get 2 here. And then I need this borrowed. So I have 14 now here. Right? 14 minus 6 is 8. I still have a 5. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then that negative 0.642 is bigger, so I get that negative 0.182 as my answer. Okay, then we do the same thing with circle. Okay, opposite sign. So if I look at the ones place, this 5 is bigger than 0, so I'm going to put the 5.7 on top minus 0.13 because they are opposite signs. Add a 0 where needed. Borrow 7. Get 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. I have 6 here. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5 minus 0 is 5. And then the negative was 5.7. 5.7 was the bigger number, so negative 5.57 is your answer. Alright, moving on. Negative 2.57, negative 3.48, Same signs we combine, so we just write out 3.48 plus 2.57. It didn't matter which one's on top because you are adding. If you were subtracting, you put the bigger number on top. 8 plus 7 is 15. Carry the 1. 10. 6. Drop down that decimal. That decimal drops down. Just like on the previous ones, the decimal drops down. Once you hit that decimal or cross that decimal, you drop it down, okay? Be careful on that. And they're both negative, so you keep it negative. Alright, so now before a race, you start 4.5 feet behind your friend. At the half point, you are 3 2/3 feet ahead of your friend. What is the change in distance between you and your friend from the beginning of the race? So let's go ahead and think of this as a number line. So at first, here's your friend, right? Okay, so your friend's here. So this is friend. You start 4 5/8 feet behind your friend. So you're back here, 4 5/8 feet behind. So this is a negative. So we're going to say your friend's at 0. Okay, at the halfway point, you are 3 2/3 ahead of your friend. So you go from here, and then you go all the way up to 3 2/3 in front of your friend, right? What is the change in distance between you and your friend from the beginning of the race to the end of the race? So we're going to do addition. We're going to take negative 4 5/8, and we're going to add the 3 2/3. Okay, so first step, let's go ahead and make these improper, just make it easier. So 8 times 5 is 32, plus 5 is 37. And then 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. Okay, we got to get a common denominator. The greatest common denominator between the two is a 24. So I have to times by 3 here, I have to times by 3 up here. So it gets 24. 37 times 3 is 111. And then we're going to take 3 times 8, which is 24, and 11 times 8, which is 88. And then we circle our things, and opposite signs we subtract. So I'm going to take 111 minus 88. Okay, and you should get 23. So 23 over 24. And my negative is bigger, so my negative. So you are about, okay, but we're not going to have a negative distance. So really what we're going to get is you are 23, I'm going to write it up here, 23 and 24 feet change. It was a 23 24th, so 23 24th feet change. So that would be your answer for this problem. Awesome.